Welcome to the January 9th, 2023 meeting of Community Board 6 Budget and Governmental Affairs Committee. My name is Reshma Patel, and I am chair of this committee. Tonight, we're joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Berth. The meeting is called to order at 6:34 p.m. As a reminder, New York state law now requires that all community board members have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. If your camera is not on and your name not properly displayed, you cannot count towards quorum. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature in Zoom. If there is time following committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. I'd like to welcome Nad Kilani as vice chair of this committee. Thank you, Nad, for taking on this role. Nad has also volunteered to take minutes for tonight. Thank you, Nad. And as a reminder, you've all been asked to sign up to take minutes for our future meetings. And Brendan, if you could just share that in the chat right now for people to sign up. Eva Marie has kindly already volunteered for next month's meeting, but we will need volunteers going forward. Thank you. And then Brendan, if you could take attendance.
Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Jim Collins.
Here.
B. Disman.
Present.
Nadine Kalani.
Present.
Ava Marie Lassiter.
Present.
Steve O.
Present.
Reshma Patel.
Present.
Lou Sapersky. Okay, I do not see Lou, so he's counted as absent. Hannah Singleman.
Present.
And Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Brendan. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the October 6th meeting of this committee were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the October 6th meeting are approved. Brendan, you can now stop screen share. In order to conduct an efficient meeting tonight, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us of any technical difficulties you're having or state in writing information like an email address that has already been stated aloud on the record during this meeting. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Committee members, once again, as a reminder, are required by the state open meetings law to have their Zoom cameras on and your first and last name displayed during the entirety of tonight's meeting, from call to order to adjournment. If you must step away from your computer briefly, you are required to leave your camera on. So we'll follow tonight's agenda. The items are discussion of New York's Independent Redistricting Commission's proposed state assembly district map lines and its impact on the neighborhoods within Manhattan Community Board 6, chair's report, and old and new business. And after the committee's discussion of each agenda item and before the Q&A period with the public, I will ask that we repeat each of these ground rules and everyone be cognizant of them. Brendan, if you could share the resolution that was shared with committee members in advance of this meeting, that is Community Board 6's response to the first draft of the state assembly lines released by the Independent Redistricting Commission in December. Is everyone able to see what's being shared on the screen? If you cannot, please raise your hand.
Also, please let me know if the text needs to be larger.
And so just as some background, members of the public as well as committee members will remember that we had a meeting in early August to discuss district lines, and those were city council district lines. And that process was separate from the process we have now. There's been questions about why we're discussing this again, but surprisingly, what the city council's original draft map had done is what the state assembly draft map does, which takes a portion of our district and moves it to a Queens State Assembly District, which is State Assembly District 36. And as we have discussed previously, we are distinct communities. The two-borough State Assembly District would hurt services in both boroughs, and we are unique from the needs that are in what is now State Assembly District 36. And this draft resolution outlines why we think that these lines are incorrect and don't follow the guidelines in the state constitution, as well as do not keep intact our existing community needs. And I'd like to thank Letty Simon and Chris Collins for their help in bringing this to our attention and for their feedback on this resolution. And Chris or Letty, if you'd like to speak further, please let me know.
Nothing to add except to say thank you to Board 6 for your great work on the districting issue last summer. And Reshma, thank you for taking the time to talk to us the other day. I think this will be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any committee members? Discussion is open if there are any comments here.
I see Jim has his hand raised.
Okay, Jim, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have the same issue here, and I forget the assembly district, but much of Stuyvesant Town and what have you, and in my district was moved to a predominantly Queens Assembly district in the Senate, in the state Senate. So I don't know why this is frankly any different.
Yes, and I also am in that same district, right?
Kristen Gonzalez district, the District 59. It's now called District 59, which is bizarre.
Yeah, they created a new state Senate district, and when that happened in May, as you are aware, right? It was right around Memorial Day when the court order came out. The state Senate and the congressional lines got switched. We had them push the primary from June to August, and it was done quickly, and there were no public hearings. But here, in this case, we have on February 7th, a public hearing in Manhattan. There's public hearings around the city happening on different dates, and we have the ability to comment on this first draft of the map. And I would argue that we should comment here, because while we did get redistricted to a two-borough state Senate district, if we had the same thing happen in a state assembly district, I don't think you're in the state assembly district, but for those who are in that state assembly district, then their needs are being overlooked by two elected officials, perhaps, because majority of those districts are not going to be in Manhattan.
Right. That's you're talking about District 73?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, part of 74, part of 73 would be shifted.
So that's Harvey's district and
Alex Borez. Most of it's Alex Borez. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I happen to be in Harvey's district as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm being taught on both ends. I don't know
Also,
which part of the district they're looking to us to ascribe to the new, whatever new map they are. I don't know whether I'd be included or if Stuyvesant Town would be included. I haven't,
No, so
I'd
Stuyvesant
have to
Town-
look at the new district map.
So Stuyvesant Town is not included. From Harvey's district, from the 74th, is the northern part of the district, which is basically the Tudor City area. The most northern block of Tudor City is what's being pushed to what is Assembly
Mhm.
District 36. And then
Mhm.
the state assembly member is Zoran Mamdani is a state assembly member for that district.
Mhm.
And the
It
rest
would be
of the
good if
blocks.
we could get a map.
Yeah, so we
Do
have
you
it.
have
I
the
mean, I
map
can
posted?
have, if you want, we can share Council-matic, Brendan, and you can show the overlapping maps to see what's being shifted.
What you're talking about or something else entirely?
Yeah, this is it. This and then
And
you'd
Zoom.
have to zoom in.
A lot.
Let me actually zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, can people see it? I am actually looking at this on the phone, so I'm actually having a hard time seeing
I'm
it.
doing the
Yeah, this
same.
is actually not
It's
as
challenging.
this is actually not super helpful. So let me switch to a different map. This is redistricting in
New
you.
York State.
Yeah, and this one will actually, you can flip back and forth between the old and the new lines.
Yeah, so
Redistricting and You is the name of the website.
Yes.
Yep. I can post a link to the chat. So what's displayed right now is the draft plan, and this is Assembly District 36, which includes mostly Queens and then this chunk of Manhattan.
That's like that sliver on like Second Ave to the river.
So this is the draft plan, and in contrast, this is the current district map or districting map.
And Roosevelt Island would be shifted to that district as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
By the way, I see B has her hand raised.
All right, and B, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I want to support this resolution. You know, we dealt with exactly these issues as we were dealing with the council. I think it is very important for us to be able to present our position at the hearing. I think a groundswell of people living in the district and community organizations need to testify. As a matter of fact, I was very surprised that we were going back to square one after what was done for the city council. So I'm going to vote for the resolution. I find it outlining all the steps that we need. And unless people have comments, I'll come back and call the question. But I just wanted to say, I think this is very, very important for us to pass it, to get it to the full board and to be able to testify.
And I'd just like to point out that unlike the city redistricting commission, where there were multiple rounds of hearings, here there's only one shot. So that February 7th meeting is actually the only meeting in, in Manhattan that we will have to testify. So it is something that we need to address quickly.
Thank you.
So I actually have my hand raised
Okay.
just to offer, a clarifying response to something that Jim was wondering about, which was with regard to, isn't this the same as the state Senate redistricting? Yeah, what Jim was talking about, well, some of you already know this, but parts of the district were, were districted into a new Senate District 59, which includes parts of Queens, and I think as well parts of Brooklyn. But with state Senate as well as US House, as many of you know, it was a very messy redistricting process that ultimately resulted in a special master drawing the maps. And as far as I know, there was no opportunity for public comment. It was, the special master's map was final, I'm pretty sure.
That is true from my understanding as well. There was no
Yeah.
response time for that.
And I'm just curious, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this redistricting NU, and I see AD 36 encompasses much of Midtown. That's nuts. From about 43rd Street up to East 60th Street. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
That's insane.
Yeah. So it's basically, that Midtown East. Yes. So that exactly.
And
so
all
that,
of this, and Astoria and Queensbridge and all that area,
Yes.
Hunters
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah.
This is insane. They should at least make it contiguous between, the 73rd, I guess, 76th and the 74th. Split the difference and expand the thing into Queens, the other district. I'm sure there's plenty of gerrymandering going on here.
Well, I mean, the thing is that this is why we're in this situation to begin with, because the maps that were made by the state legislature, because after the first round with the Independent Redistricting Commission, where they couldn't come out to a decision, it went to the state legislature, they drew up maps, and then there was the court case, and this is why the special master came in for the state Senate and congressional lines, and then they left out the state assembly lines, and then they came in and they said that the state assembly lines need to be redone, but there wasn't enough time for this past election cycle, so that's why they pushed it to this year.
Mm.
So that's why we're here, because the court felt that there had been gerrymandering.
So we'll be having another election in November for these seats?
This will be then for the 2024 cycle, once these lines are done.
I thought after they redistrict, you're saying that the redistricting will be in 2024,
Yes.
correct? I'm sorry, I've not followed this subject very closely at all.
No, it's okay. And there's been so many, right? It's been going on for a long time, and there's many different processes. So it's hard to keep up and even remember everything for those of us who have been reading it all the time.
Yeah.
I see that Letty has her hand raised.
I would just like to say that part of our victory last time was the input of the community board and the community organizations. And we do have a sample letter that would be available. And I'm sure Chris could send it, or I could send it to you to post, if possible, for community groups and people to write and flood the commission with those letters. That was very effective last time as well, in addition to the testimony. So I just thought I would make that point clear. And we're very appreciative of everything that the board is doing and will do. And also, this is also done in concert with CB8, because the district affected in terms of this new district goes as high as about 69th or 70th Street. It also stretches 10 blocks north of 60th Street. We're involved from 59th to 42nd, but it's a lot more extensive, and everybody seems to be working very well together. And if the board helped with that and getting that word out to communities, that would be helpful as well. That's what we're doing, and CB8 is doing the same thing. Anyway, thank you.
Yes, and I have Chris shared that letter with me, so I have that. And if any, we'll share it with anyone else in the community board who then can also send it to the commissioners, and the list of commissioners as well. We'll share.
Beautiful, thank you.
I see Nad's hand is raised.
Nad, you have the floor.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I was wondering, so I know in the last time we did the resolution for the other districting, we had like proposed like a sample of like, like a proposed new boundary lines. Is there any value in doing, I wasn't really on the board at that point, but is there any value in doing that here? Or is there some like sort of alternative we should be like supporting? I'm not sure like how important that was in terms of the other resolution having success, but I was just comparing the two and I noticed we didn't have that here.
Thank you for noticing that, and that's a good point. I don't, I think it would be good for us to have something as a suggestion, but I think in terms of, and I defer to Chris on this too, because he is the person who's been, really involved on this a lot. But I think the idea is that we just want to say that we don't want to have this 2-borough assembly district.
Right.
And then they can move within the district, like because part of it's 73, this sliver 74, they could move that around if they wanted to.
Got
it.
And I think it's, because of the population changes, it's going to be impossible to keep the assembly lines intact.
I see B has her hand raised.
Yes, I was going to call the question.
Second.
Does anyone object, or we can take a vote if no one objects?
The motion has been seconded.
Okay.
So at this point, I can get people's votes.
Okay.
So when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or abstain for cause. Jim Collins.
Abstain. I haven't studied it enough to be astute enough to make a decision.
B. Disman.
4.
Dean Kalani.
4.
Ava Marie Lassiter.
4.
Steve O.
4.
Reshma Patel.
I have to abstain with cause.
Okay. Hannah Singleman.
4.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
With 6 in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 abstention for cause, this resolution passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brendan. And thank you for, everyone from CV8 who's joined the call, and to Letty and Chris for all your work on this. So we can move on. And I will have my chair's report. And so, we're starting the new year and a new cycle. And for the budget request, I am going to start this month, I'm going to reach out to each of the different committee heads to ask them for their budget needs for next year. And I'm hoping that this process can be streamlined and not as rushed as it's been in the past. And we can have a more in-depth discussion both on the Airtable, but as well as what we submit in the written material, because we seem to usually just do cookie cutter and things kind of get pushed to the side. And really, we want to present something that we can get funding for the needs in our district. And for those of you who are on other committees, if you can, remember to bring this up at your committee meetings as well, that would be very helpful. And we also, in the next couple of months, when we're not discussing budget requests, I would like to focus on governmental affairs. And if there's any other issues people would like to discuss, Jim, I know you had brought up issues last year, and on the pension fund, as well as congestion pricing. And I don't know, I had sent an email to you, I think it was back in October, to see if you wanted to put it on the calendar.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And so,
I had sent you a letter.
Yes, I got
some time
that.
ago
Yeah.
requesting
We had that
requesting
letter.
a presentation by the city actuary.
Yes.
Right.
So I will follow up on that, and then
Okay.
have something in the next and not the next meeting, but probably for March.
All right.
And if
what
anyone
else
else has
was
any
there?
suggestions, please bring them up. And that's it for my report. Any old or new business?
I'm raising my hand.
All right, Brian, you have the floor.
Let me lower my hand. Okay, I am in the middle of working on this because this was something that came up today. So Senator Krueger has, for the last couple of terms in the Senate, proposed a ranging New York City Board of Elections reform bill that Albany would need to pass before those changes could take effect. So it wouldn't be a city thing before the council, it would be before the legislature. Senator Krueger's bill has been drafted and has had sponsors the last couple of years, but has not advanced out of committee. Albany stuff. Apparently, they announced today with Senate Leader Andrew Stewart Cousins that they are going to vote on her reintroduced bill that was introduced on January 6th. Going to vote on it this week and pass it because there's enough sponsors to pass. And that legislation is being posted in the chat. It's S619 under nysenate.gov. I am currently drafting a Google document that isn't a resolution, but I'm going to send this. Brendan, check your email in like 10 seconds because I'm going to send this to you because this is not what we're going to send to the full board. This is just a summary of what the changes are in the bill. It's a Google Doc that I'm working on. I'm going to share it with you so you should be able to view it. All right, that's been sent. And
Okay, I'll let you know when I
formatting
get
that
it.
document right now so that you can read it because this is what is the summary. This is what is a chopped down summary of what is in this package that is in the bill text. And my impression is that this may move along quickly, so we should not wait to endorse this legislation. I'm going to read from the document that I have, and Brendan, once you receive it via email, do a screen share with it. We have a few minutes. It's only 7:01 p.m., so I mean, it's not particularly long, but here's a summary of what's in the Krueger bill. This bill is going to sunset the term of each member of the current Board of Elections in the City of New York upon the confirmation of new commissioners. It's going to reduce the number of commissioners at the BOE from 10 to 2. Within 60 days of vacancy, each county committee shall file a certificate of party recommendation for one individual to be nominated to the position of election commissioner, noting that there's 2 parties and there's 2 commissioners. The city council would then hold a public hearing on the nominees and confirm 2 individuals from separate counties, with 1 commissioner representing each of the 2 parties that received the most and second votes in the most recent gubernatorial election. So this is a top 2 parties kind of thing. You could see where this is going. We're not going to have a Working Families Party commissioner. It's going to require additional budgetary responsibility at the Board of Elections at my discretion. I have not added detail on that.
Brian, one thing, can you speak a little louder? Some people are saying they can't hear you.
Okay. Note that what I am reading is on the screen. So there, I think we can read this further. I feel confident in this summary. It's shifting the powers around a little bit, additional budgetary responsibility provisions, a section about provisioning, and provides for the current commissioners to continue to perform the functions of the Board of Elections until the expiration of their term. And there's another one I'm going to just copy and paste at the end. I don't think that these are major sections of this, and they come at the end of the summary. Current executive director, they assume the role of executive director until the commissioners complete the required process for appointing another one. And then section 9 is the severability clause. And section 10 is the effective date of the bill. So this is in general. we could vote on this tonight, and if anybody feels like they've read it, or they've read the actual legislation and that I had missed a major part of it, or that there is something buried in that is very objectable, we can discuss a little bit more at full board on Wednesday. I believe on this summary that this is a piece of good legislation that we should endorse, and I would like for us to have a motion tonight to endorse this. I will write a resolution to send to Brendan to essentially in the resolve part is to endorse. Let's see, we have a title on it: Senate Bill S619 for the Senate and the Assembly to pass it, and for the governor to sign it.
Is this somehow, I'm sorry,
You don't have the floor.
I know.
Yes, and
I know,
yeah,
sorry.
thank you, Brian. So two things, just one is you have to have your cameras on to be counted present and to vote in the meetings as per the state open meetings law. And if you're not speaking, please have your mics on mute. Brian, thank you for presenting this. I think it's a really important issue, and if we can get the resolution done and presented on Wednesday, it would be great. And so thank you for offering to do that. And Jim, you have the floor.
I'm just wondering, is this matter time sensitive, and for what reason?
There's only 58 days in the session.
Right, and the session doesn't end until, what is it,
It's
April
effectively over
1st?
in mid-March.
right? It's
I mean, they may
January.
vote on the assembly may vote on.
I
it
don't,
next
I
week.
don't have enough information on this, Brian, to say one way or another.
So just for the sake of the public, we had an election reform package that was introduced in 2020 at the start of, was it, what was the year in which there was election reform bills passed?
No, it was
2021?
2020. It was 2020, and we, as the board, had written a resolution in support of those.
Yeah,
reform.
like there was
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff introduced on like January 1st that was all passed by January 3rd before we even had a budget meeting, never mind a full board meeting.
Yes.
So they may move on it this month, but given the cycle with the budget, legislation in Albany would probably not get through both chambers if it is not agreed to by mid-March. That has been generally the process for most legislation in Albany going back many, many years. So they won't even have sessions with the legislature past the middle of June, but the budget season is basically the end of the line for anything that's not super mission critical in Albany, typically. So I think that it behooves us to consider this swiftly. There doesn't seem to be a reason for us to sit on it any longer, because Board of Election reform is something that we've discussed a lot, and the measurements in the process, Senator Krueger stands behind them, and I mean, we can debate them individually, but it seems like a reasonable set of modifications to make. We can help the senator, and we can help the city deal with an agency that notwithstanding any of the action of any of these individual items, the agency has floundered in performance in certain recent primary and general elections.
I see B has her hand raised.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm having difficulty, first of all, reading what you wrote. It's very light. I'm having difficulty seeing how these changes will make it more effective. So maybe Rashma, Brian can explain in a nutshell what are in these changes that makes it more effective. Otherwise, I just really don't have enough information.
So to my understanding is that this is reducing the number of commissioners. It's instituting a process to appoint them, and it's changing the appointment process to have each party institute one commissioner instead of or one commissioner each. And then I'm trying to understand how the changes help, because I've seen it. Maybe we could have Senator Krueger explain to us how this would add more professionalization at the agency. But as it came across the news today, reports were saying that that was the purpose of this legislation, was to allow for more staff at the Board of Elections to actually be people who are working professionals rather than cronies of the people at the top of the parties. That said, I didn't see anything in the summary that specifically talked about that type of management stuff. Maybe the board, maybe it's being very circumspect on what the changes are actually to the executive director position. But there's powers of the board, there's powers of the executive director. Some of this stuff is spelled out in the summary, and there is a justification section. The link that I put mentions it, and I guess I'm going to put this in the Google Doc at the end. So let's see.
So one of the other things that the bill has is to have more accountability of the commissioners, right? And again, I haven't read the most recent stuff that came out today, but from what this had been proposed before, when the original voting reforms had been proposed, it wanted to have co-executive directors, to have them be more accountable, the commissioners be more accountable, and have training for the commissioners so they actually knew the processes of the Board of Elections rather than be these political appointees who aren't familiar with actually how the whole process works.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, I see your hand raised.
You know, it seems to me we're doing this kind of on the fly. I don't think we have enough information, therefore I move that we put the discussion. It wasn't even on the agenda that I recollect seeing this afternoon when I looked at it.
Right, I brought it up during new business.
Right. Well, you know, I don't think I don't think there's an urgency to address this or vote on it this evening. I think we have plenty of time in February to address it. So I move that we suspend discussion on that and take it up again in February after people have had a chance to review the legislation and whatever resolution you wish to submit.
The things, okay, go ahead, Reshma.
I mean, you can speak. I mean, I don't hear. Does someone want to second Jim's motion?
I'm going to second it.
Okay, so then we'll take a vote.
We should be able to debate on a motion, though.
A motion has been made and seconded, though.
Right.
So we're in vote.
Right.
We're in
so
voting.
When there's a motion made, you can debate the motion until the question is called.
Okay, so I will let you speak, Brian, and then I'll call the question.
Okay. Just noting that while the sentiment of wanting more time to review everything, you know, there seems to be some reasonability behind it. You have the whole thing directly in front of you. I don't think we have the justification and we have the summary of the bill's provisions right here, right now, and we're just going to have the same vote at another meeting if we do. I think it's fine if we take a few minutes to take a look at this, but if everybody thinks that this is too overwhelming and they want Senator Krueger's office to come here and explain this to us, that would be something that we didn't have enough time to coordinate for today, but we could coordinate for February. But we do have everything that they would probably tell us right in front of us.
I mean, I think the issue, Brian, is that people, while it's in front of them, they can't, you know, people are having a hard time reading it and fully kind of seeing
there's also
it. I mean,
the
I think
link
perhaps,
in the chat.
Yes. You know, we could, you know, there's been a motion has been called, so we can take a vote for that. But I would also suggest that perhaps if you are willing to put a resolution together and send it around, perhaps we can have everyone take a look at it between now and Wednesday. And then Wednesday before our full board, we can have a side discussion, a quick side discussion to see if people in the committee are willing to pass it, and then we can present it at full board.
Yeah, I
But
guess
for-
that's possible. You know, if that's okay with the board rules, we used to do things like that all the time.
Yes.
If
And
I- If I may interject, I think it would behoove us to have to have one of Senator Kruger's people come and detail why these changes are needed and what they all involve. I think that would be helpful. And then, you know, if they choose to do it Wednesday, that's fine. You know, I just know that I need to read the damn thing a little more and see what's going on a little more precisely than trying to read it through my telephone.
okay, so we'll take a vote. Brendan, if you can do the vote.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the motion is to table this, correct?
Yeah, until February.
Defer.
Defer.
Brendan, point of information. The proper term is defer. You can't.
Or
You
defer.
can't table you can't table a resolution that doesn't exist yet.
Duly noted. So, I think since it's not an official resolution vote, just a show of hands, Zoom hands is sufficient. So if you are in favor of the motion, please raise your Zoom hand. Okay, I currently count 5 hands. Everyone can put their hands down. And everyone who is opposed to the motion, please raise your Zoom hand. I count 3. But as 5 were in favor of the motion and 3 were opposed, those in favor went out.
All right, so thank you, Brendan. So this discussion will then be deferred and put on the agenda for the February meeting of this committee. And thank you, Brian, for bringing up the issue. And perhaps in advance of the meeting, we can invite Senator Kruger or someone from her office to speak, but we could also have the draft resolution ready for that meeting as well to review. Anyone have any other business they'd like to raise?
Yep.
All right, if not, I think if someone wants to make a motion to adjourn.
I see Eva Marie has her hand raised.
Sure, Eva Marie.
You're currently on mute, Eva Marie. Need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I just had one brief question regarding the state Senate redistricting. I wanted to know, is that now in stone? I know with the assembly that this is something that we're considering fighting in a way, but I wanted to know with the state Senate redistricting, is that completely in stone now? It did affect the elections earlier in 2022.
Yes, it is set. There is no, those lines are done. We've had elections based on those lines. I mean,
Right.
someone could always bring up a lawsuit, but there's no public discussion, no way for us to offer input right now.
And there was no way for us to really oppose this prior to the election. Is that correct?
Yes.
I see. All right. Thank you.
And that's the distinction between what's happening with the state assembly and the state senate, because there were two different legal cases.
Right, I understood that, but we were not given the opportunity regarding
No.
the state senate. I see.
Yeah.
All right.
State Assembly.
No, both state assembly, we have the February 7th meeting. And,
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. I'm
and,
sorry.
and,
My
and
apologies.
just as a background.
I knew we got messed out of one of them.
Yeah. And just as background, the Independent Redistricting Commission, once the census data was released and the process started, there were public hearings. And there were many public hearings about redistricting that happened. But the lines that they came up with, there were two maps, because the commission has 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. They couldn't agree on which maps. So there were 2 maps. Then the maps went to the state assembly, state senate. The state legislature then voted on those maps. And then those were the maps that got rejected by the courts. And then we had a special master.
Right. But then when they did the special master for the Senate seats, as you indicated, they did it like Memorial Day weekend or something like that,
Yes.
where nobody,
Yes.
yeah, bureaucrats tend to do that.
Thank you. That was my
Close
feeling.
out the public. Close
Thank you
out the
for-
public as much as.
Thank you for
Awesome.
explaining that, because that was
Mhm.
my feeling. Thank you very much.
Yes. No, and the whole process was, very confusing. And as I said, I've been paying very close attention to it. And the same thing, all of a sudden, I was like, oh, what just happened? It was the, all those public hearings where many of us testified before kind of were a waste of time, because then the special master just came in.
Yeah. So we're adjourned.
Did someone make a motion?
I
right,
moved to adjourn.
Okay. I don't think